Hey guys, welcome to Achievement Through Attitude TV. I'm your host and attitude coach and hopefully attitude adjuster Phil Stringer. This program, as we all know, is about getting your attitude adjusted. It's about getting your attitude right. It's about finding an attitude that gets your motor running and gets your heart pumping. It's about the power of attitude and how the incredible power of attitude will allow you to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve in life. But what I hope this show does is inspires and motivates your attitudes to be amazing. Because everybody that comes on this show, guys, has an amazing story. But they have an amazing story simply because they have an amazing attitude. And we're going to meet someone today who has an amazing attitude and has an amazing story. But before we get started, I've been working on this little project. It's a little commercial, a little video that we've done. Because at the beginning of the show, Achievement Through Attitude has a lightning bolt that is part of the logo. And the reason that we chose a lightning bolt is because lightning is powerful, and there are a lot of elements that have to come together to create that lightning. And it's the same thing with attitude. To have the proper attitude, to have a powerful attitude, a lot of elements have to come together. So we put together this little video, and I hope that you enjoy it. And I hope that you believe that with an amazing attitude, you too can catch lightning. Please enjoy the video. Achievement through attitude. The will to believe that everything is possible with the right attitude. Achievement through attitude. The will to never hang your head. Achievement through attitude. The will to never surrender. Achievement through attitude. The will to bring your dream to life. I told you everything was possible with the right attitude. Hey guys, I hope that put a smile on your face. It makes me chuckle every once in a while. But we put a lot of hard work into that, and I think that it turned out great. But the gentleman that's coming on the show, he believes that everything is possible with the right attitude. He did 20 years for the New York City Police Department as a detective and worked in the firearms forensics. He's an expert in firearm forensics, and he's taking that knowledge and he's passed that along to the troops in Afghanistan and Iraq that are over there protecting our freedom. So they have all the information that they need to be successful. So guys, please sit back and get ready to get your attitude adjusted with Mr. David Delarosa next on Achievement Through Attitude TV. Hey guys, welcome back to Achievement Through Attitude TV. Today we're talking about just amazing attitudes. And the gentleman I have on the show today absolutely has an amazing attitude. And it's Mr. David Delarosa. David, thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. As I said in the opening, David did 20 years with the New York City Police Department, where he was a detective. He worked in intelligence, right?
Yes.
And then ended up being a firearm forensic expert, which is very cool. So tell me where everything started. I know that you were born in Cuba, which I thought was really cool, because I didn't think anybody that was born in Cuba could leave. So.
Yeah, well, I was born in Cuba, Havana, Cuba, along with my 4 brothers. My parents were also born in Cuba. And in the early 1960s, after the takeover with Castro, certain amount of people were allowed to leave. My parents chose to uproot us to the United States for better opportunities.
In which you obviously found, but not through some ups and downs. Because I know when we were talking that you told me that you dropped out of high school, and as a kid, and you still achieved all these amazing things. Tell me about that attitude, you know, because we talked about it before we came on, and I thought it was very cool.
Yeah. Well, at that time, I was going through my own difficulties, through some of my own involvement, but basically it was just a situation of, you know, hanging out with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, some difficulties in my family. My parents going through a divorce at the time, and so I was in a place that wasn't good, and I decided that it had to stop, and I had to start making a better life for myself, and I just wasn't going to allow myself to get down and be in the wrong spot anymore.
You said that you had, you know, through your roadblocks and through your difficulties, you were not going to fail.
Absolutely not. A time came in my life that I just said, enough is enough, and I have to start putting my life on the right track and start heading in the right direction.
And you basically took excuses out of the equation.
That's it. I mean, I took a lot of the blame myself. Some of it, you know, from the situation I was in, but a lot of it had to do with myself.
Right.
And I just decided that, you know, it wasn't going to happen anymore.
That's awesome. And then that led you to, I know you did some military service with the Army, and then from the Army you ended up getting a job with the New York City Police Department.
Yeah, I went into the Army to pursue a career in accounting, and that's what I actually went into the Army for, accounting. And I did 3 years of active duty service. Decided that was enough, got out. I had just gotten married at the time, also while I was in the military, had my first daughter, and when I came back, I just wanted to start pursuing all different avenues, and the police department was one of those avenues.
Right. And now you were there, I think you said you were a beat cop, that's the terminology, beat cop for 6 months, right?
Yes.
Is that right? And you
Yes.
said that you were aggressive, and that comes from that you're not going to fail, you're not going to get held back type of attitude. So you got bumped into a radio car. That's the terminology too. See how I picked all that up?
Yeah.
And that's a big deal in 6 months, right?
It is. It's in the police department when I first came on. It was a little difficult to get into a radio car right away, but I was an aggressive officer. I made a lot of arrests, and I had the opportunity, or I was given the opportunity, to go into the radio car because of that aggressiveness.
And then was it detective next? Is that right?
Yes. Then I went into a position where I can work in a specific assignment, and after a certain amount of time, they promote you to detective within that assignment.
And then from the detective, you went into the intelligence part of the police department. You have to be a detective to be promoted to that division, right?
You have to be a detective to get into that part of the division within the police department.
And then once you got in there, you met some pretty cool people that we were talking
I did.
about. Which it's funny. One of the people was Yasser Arafat.
Yes.
You were shoulder to shoulder with him.
Yes.
Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Al Gore.
Yes. And his family.
That's just amazing. I mean, did you ever think that you would be in that situation?
No, I really didn't.
I mean, you knew you were going to be successful just because you just said, I'm going to be successful. But did you ever think, I mean, you'd be rubbing shoulders with those type of people?
No, and it was just really some cool things that I was able to do while I was a part of the intelligence division, working diplomatic protection, you know, for, you know, everybody right up to the President of the United States, which is, you know, it's just an amazing thing for me.
It is, and then we were talking before the show, and I was telling him, I said, I'm so blessed to get the opportunity to meet people like David and everybody else that's been on the show because they have these amazing attitudes. So it inspires me, and it's really cool, by the way, if you guys haven't noticed. But then you said that you also met Bush Sr., didn't you?
Bush Sr., I met him on a diplomatic assignment when he came into New York. It was some sort of a fundraiser, if I remember correctly, for the Republican Party.
So that's cool. That's very cool. And now, you know, not to put a cloud over the good stuff we're talking about, but you were there, and by this time at 9/11, you were already in the forensic department, the firearms department, and 9/11 happened, and you were actually down in Florida when it did happen, and you guys got word, and you commandeered a rental car to get back to New York City because you couldn't get a flight in. Tell me about coming through the bridge, coming back into New York City on that day.
Yeah, well, we of course we couldn't get a flight going back. All the flights were shut down, and we were in Florida on a training mission with the forensics division. There was actually also a hurricane coming into the Tampa area that next day. So we decided that we just had to commandeer the rental vehicle that we had and drive back to New York. And coming over the Verrazano Bridge as we were traveling back, you can see into Lower Manhattan, and all you can see was the smoke still rising days later, and the fire still burning, and you can smell it in the air. It was just an unbelievable sight, and something I'll never forget.
It leaves an indelible mark on you, because I can remember where I was at, and I know that I've heard people that are older talk about they remember where they were at when Kennedy was assassinated, and I would assume that that's the same when those planes ran into the building. You remember where you were at, and it just leaves that mark on you.
Yeah, it was, I mean, just hearing the news was unbelievable, but the reality was on that bridge, looking into Lower Manhattan and seeing that smoke rising.
Guys, when we come back, we've got to take a break. So when we come back, we're going to hear from David a little bit more about 9/11, and then he's going to tell us about what he does now over in Iraq and in Afghanistan. So guys, please stay tuned to Achievement Through Attitude TV to get your attitude adjusted. Hey guys, welcome back to Achievement Through Attitude TV. We're here with David Delarosa, and we're just talking about amazing attitudes. And when we left, we were talking about 9/11 when David got back into the city. And when you got back into the city, I think you were there for 2 days, and then you were assigned down to Ground Zero. Is that right?
Yes, different officers got assigned to different areas of the Ground Zero, and I was assigned to the temporary morgue of Ground Zero.
I don't. How do you deal with that? I mean, what's your mindset? What's your attitude when you're going into something like that, knowing that you're going to be asked to identify body parts and bodies? I mean,
well, you know, you know that you have a job to do, and personal feelings have to go aside, and you have to do that job. You have to accomplish your mission. So.
I thought one of the things that was unique that we were talking about, that you said when they would uncover a first responder's body and they would bring that to the morgue, that there was a ceremony that had to be conducted for that first responder. And by first responder, can you explain first responders?
Sure. First responders was anybody that had to do with the emergency response to Ground Zero, which included EMS, in Port Authority Police, New York City Police, firemen, you know, anybody that was involved in the response and the emergency response.
How many days did you actually have to spend in that position at the morgue at Ground Zero? Did it rotate out for you?
You do rotate out. It's not consecutive days in a row that you have to work it, so they rotate different police officers within the department. So it would be a one-day assignment, and my one-day assignment each time that I was down there just happened to be the temporary morgue.
Wow. Now, how did that affect your family? I just wanted to touch on that briefly, your wife and your kids and things like that.
Well, you spend a lot of time. It's, you know, in the first few weeks of what was going on, we were working 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, no days off. So it's a lot of time away from your family, and you know, it's a lot of worrying on your family, on you know, what's going on in my life and where is my assignment.
Wow. And I know that your wife can drive you nuts. Oh, she's going to get me for that one. I've had to throw it in there, though. You know, but anyway, so, you know, we got through that ordeal in 9/11, and then with your expertise in firearms, you got an opportunity to go to first Iraq, and then Afghanistan, where David is now stationed. He's here in the States on leave and was kind enough to come and spend some time here with us, so and I appreciate that. But tell us about what you do over there. Tell me a little bit about forensic firearms.
Well, forensic firearms is just the study of firearms identification, which includes, anything and everything that has to do with firearms.
Right.
Firearm components and ammunition and all of that stuff. That is what I did in the last 6 years with the police department. So I had the opportunity to be hired as a government contractor to go overseas and to help, the U.S. military in their fight against terrorism from that perspective of firearms operability and firearms identification.
So that way, the way that I understand it, that the troops would know what was firing on them, what caliber of weapon, the bullets and things like that you can identify for them.
Correct, and that's what we do for the military. Basically what we do is we help them in their fight on the battlefield to identify some of the things that they're up against. One of the ways that we can help the soldier in the battlefield is they don't ever have to see their enemy. They can get into an engagement with the enemy, never have to see their enemy. All they have to do is recover the evidence from that engagement, and from that evidence we can give them information. We can provide information to them on the caliber of the weapon, how many weapons, and even sometimes specifically what specific weapon they were up against.
Wow. So when you're talking about gathering evidence from a firefight, what would they be looking for?
Well, ideally the weapon itself, but
Right.
in most instances they're just recovering spent cartridge casings from the scene, and or on rare occasions the bullets themselves. So just by bringing us those cartridge cases, and like I said, never having to see their enemy or even recover the firearms, we can tell them the firearms that they were up against and how many different firearms were involved in that engagement. And that gives them great information for the next time that they're in that area. They know exactly what they're up against.
They know what they're walking into without. That's amazing. Without they didn't capture anybody. There's no gun. There's no nothing, and you can give them that information.
Correct.
Now you did, and then that was the same thing that you did for the New York City Police Department.
Yes.
And I wanted everybody to know that you testified over 125 times as an expert in court on firearms. Is that correct too?
Yes, yes. All in New York in different court jurisdictions, but altogether 125 testimonies.
Now you had a friend. How many times did he have to testify?
I believe Jimmy Janalo has over 700 testimonies. So
crazy.
I'm on the low end of the scale.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that many people are out there are discharging guns on other people.
Yes.
In crimes. So now, when you go back to, you're in Afghanistan right now. You started out in Iraq, which was a little bit nicer setup for you, wasn't it?
Yes, we're on an Army base, which was a much larger base, and the Army bases tend to be a little better of an assignment.
Now, what are you stationed in now in Afghanistan?
I'm on a military base that's run by the Marines.
Okay.
Half the base is run by the British military, and the other half of the base is run by the Marine Corps, and I am with the Marine Corps portion of the military.
Do you share information with I guess everyone that's over there, the Brits and, I don't know, NATO? I don't want to speak out of line, I'm not really sure, but do you share with all those people? Well,
there's other coalition forces that are on the base in addition to the British. The British and the Marine Corps are the main contingency of that base, but there are other coalition forces on that base, and we all share information with each other to help the fight on terrorism.
There was a cool picture with you and a gun and then one of the generals over there. What was the general's name?
I believe that was General Tulin. I'm not really sure exactly which picture you're referring to, but General Tulin was in one of the pictures.
Was he two-star?
Two-star general, yes.
Pretty nice guy?
Great guy. He's from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn.
Oh, here it is. We've got the picture right here.
Yes, that's General Tulin right there.
And then he's from where in Brooklyn?
I believe he's from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn.
And then where did you grow up in Brooklyn?
I grew up in East New York, Brooklyn.
So, is it okay, Brooklyn? But when you first, I hate to digress and go back, but you originally came to Flushing in Queens, right?
Into the Flushing, Maspeth area is where we first lived in New York, and then shortly thereafter we moved to Brooklyn.
Well, David, this is such cool stuff, and you've met so many amazing people. And guys, he did it. You know, don't let anybody ever tell you, and we've said this before, and David would agree, don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do. And David's living proof of that, because he had the right attitude, and he said he was lucky, but I believe that you make your own luck.
That's true.
And he's went on to meet a lot of amazing people and do a lot of amazing things, and I'm glad that he took time to come on the show. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. And guys, remember, every day when you wake up and your feet hit the floor, you have an opportunity to do something amazing, to be amazing. So never hang your head and never surrender. And we'll see you next week on Achievement Through Attitude to get your attitude adjusted. Guys, have a great week.